So as part of the agile process, right? So the first and foremost thing which we are doing is like starting with the sprint planning call. Okay. So in the planning call, so we are going to pick the some specific user story. And how these user stories are picked? Okay, on what basis? Like we are going to pick the user story. Are we going to pick the user story in the random order? So no. So that is not the case. So basically, right? So we will be having some release plan. Okay. So the release plan in the sense, so like when we are going to deliver the particular epic to the customer, and based upon the release plan, so they will be picking the respective user story. Okay. So whenever like the business analyst create the user story, okay, so as a team, so they will be discussing and they will be creating the user story. So basically there will be an another call involved, so which we call it as an elaboration call. So in an elaboration call, so not all the members will be involved. So like the scrum master will be involved and the entire BA team will be involved, and the dev lead and the test lead will be involved. Okay. So what is the purpose of like this elaboration call in the sense? So basically, right, before planning the release plan, so every time they will be using the elaboration call. They will be having the elaboration call because, like, as a team, they are going to discuss like what they are going to develop and what they are going to test. So basically, like they derive all possible user story in this elaboration call. Okay, so like they know like this is the release plan. So in this release, like we are focusing upon this particular update, which means like whatever the possible development activities we can do. So the dev lead will be highlighting those, and the test lead will be highlighting in a testing standpoint. So basically they will be doing the spike analysis. So why they are doing the spike analysis in the sense, so because like to identify it, so what we need exactly. Okay, so post completing the spike analysis, so now they will be getting the clear picture, so like what we need to develop and what we need to test. So then they will be start creating the user story. Okay, so generally like the business analyst will create the user story, and after creating user story, so they generally used to review the user story in the elaboration call with the dev lead and the test lead. So like so that they can refine the acceptance criteria. So the dev team can suggest few scenarios, and the test lead can suggest some few scenarios, and they can like include all possible information in the user story. Okay, so generally, right, so before picking any user story in the planning call, so all the user stories are elaborated. Okay, so they elaborated in the sense they will be doing the spike analysis. So generally they will check so whether the user story is clear, whether the user story is testable, or the user story is feasible. So if everything is clear and if it is agreed, so then they will be changing the status of the user story to DOR. So DOR is nothing but we call it as an definition of ready. Okay, so the definition of ready in the sense, so which means like they have finalized the particular epic as well as they have finalized the particular user story. So in the sprint planning call, so they will pick the user story, so which is with the status called as an DOR, and the business analyst will re-explain the user story. Because so in the elaboration call we are not involved, so only the lead level persons are involved, so others are not involved, right? So the business analyst will re-explain so everything in the planning call, and pose that like we are going to allocate the story point. Okay, so basically, so initially before starting the planning call, which means if you are working in sprint one, so during the sprint one, so they will be having the elaboration call. So the reason is like, So that they can plan the activities. So what we are going to do in the sprint 2. So they will plan all the activity in advance. So they will be defining the user story, which is nothing but they will be making the user story to the definition of the ready, and whatever the user story which is having the status as the definition of the ready. So they will pick the particular user story in the respective sprint, and they will be assigning the story point, and based upon the team capacity, so they will be picking the respective user story. And once we have completed everything, okay, so then like the final part of the user story will be like kind of an DOD. So DOD is nothing but we call it as an like definition of done. So the definition of done is nothing but so like the development activity is completed, like the testing activity is completed, and also like the regression scenario is completed, and the story met and satisfy the acceptance criteria, and this feature is eligible to deploy in the production, which means like they will be doing they will making it some DOD. Okay, so which means like we have done everything, so everything is tested, we don't have any open defect, etc. So generally like the final status of the user story should be like DOD. So DOD is nothing but it's a definition done, which is nothing but we call it as an proposed to close. So the proposed to close indicates like we have done everything in the user story. So the development, the testing, and the regression, because like the key thing is like we need to do the regression as well. So we should ensure like so the regression is done, and we should always ensure that like the either the acceptance criteria are satisfied, and we are like providing the assurance like it is eligible to deliver to the customer. So which we call it as an definition of the done. So this is the two key terms like we should always